So I was going to make this video before doing the What's the Difference Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, but then I got obsessed with all of the changes that happened in the show, and yeah, I didn't expect that video to do that well. I was going to post both of them right after each other, but I gave it a second to breathe and to, have its moment in the spotlight, and now I can talk just definitively on the UK tour version of Charlie. The Leeds Playhouse is a theatre I've really wanted to visit for a very long time, and it was perfectly timed out that Charlie and the Chocolate Factory was the first thing that I got to see there. This revival of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory has reimagined the show once again after having multiple changes to Broadway and now multiple changes now. It has been advertised as a blend of the two productions. Now, obviously, I've made a full video discussing all of these changes, and I'm going to have to touch on a few of these changes here and there. I'm not going to do it in as much detail as the previous video, so if you want to know all the changes between the West End, the Broadway, and this new UK tour, watch that video. It's a great one. I spent a lot of time on it. It's a good video. But now we can talk about the UK tour version as a whole. Is it my favourite version of the show? Has it really improved on the previous two productions? Let's find out. But if you are new to this channel and you haven't seen my face before, hi, I'm Ellie. I talk about theatre. I do reviews, I do discussions, I do video essays, and if that sounds interesting to you, please consider hitting like and subscribing. It really helps me out and helps out the channel. But let's talk more in detail about Charlie. Now, I will say straight up, I think the decision to blend the West End and the Broadway versions together was a very smart move. Obviously, there are things about the West End version that I missed and that I discussed in the last video. But I think what it does is it definitely gives the UK tour version a bit more of a sense of identity within itself. Picking out what it wanted to use in both of these productions and even adding in some new stuff for itself really makes for this nice blend of things and to make sure it stands out for itself. But I will say the change that I'm glad that this production made was to put the focus a lot more on Charlie again. The Broadway version really did feel like it kind of focused more on Wonka than Charlie, and to have Charlie once again be our proper protagonist is great. I think the show is much better when it focuses purely on Charlie as a protagonist. Charlie is your audience insert, and it's really interesting to see how they react to their situation, how they deal with regular life. A lot of the heart of the show comes directly from how Charlie interacts with their family. Their unwavering optimism, their imagination, they are a great protagonist. Maybe a little bit too perfect, but we can forgive it. The story is well adapted and sticks a lot closer to the original book, as was the case with the original UK version as well. And it definitely follows a lot more of the storyline and the beats from the original UK version, which makes sense seeing as these are both productions aimed for a UK audience. I will say pacing wise, the show does struggle from its structure a little bit. The entirety of Act 1 is the lead up to the factory and Act 2 is the factory. And it is quite clear that the more interesting part, at least on paper, is the second act and the wonders and the magic of the factory. That's the part everyone wants to get to. So I can understand if people feel like the first act is a little bit too long or spends too much time on Charlie, but I do feel like it does give you the time to really get to know Charlie and get to know the family and their dynamic and see what life is like for them. And it also gives you time to properly give a moment to each of the ticket winners themselves. To properly introduce them, especially because some of them don't last very long. Augustus Gloop. I actually found myself, with this specific production, attached more to Act 1 than Act 2. Because it feels very human. And I think this humanity and the family dynamic really shines, especially in numbers like The Amazing Fantastical History of Willy Wonka. That's a lot for my mouth to say, and I'm not very good at speaking, so I'm glad that came out right. I really enjoy the music of this show as well. I think it has a very varied and interesting score. And I'm glad that this production gave us back a lot of the songs that I really enjoyed from the original production. Almost Nearly Perfect is such a great little intro song. It's not a big, loud, bombastic opening. It takes you into just Charlie's life and introduces you to their ideals and their morals in this world and how they deal with their lot in life. Vidiots is an absolute bop, and I love this production's really much slower take on the amazing... There you go, I messed up that time. And I really like this version's take on the amazing fantastical history of Willy Wonka. It feels a lot more like a story that your grandparents would be telling you. And I think there's a lot of joy that comes from most of these songs, especially the bombastic and loud and upbeat Don't You Pinch Me Charlie that comes towards the end of Act 1. There are a few misses for me in this production, and I feel like most of them are some of the newer material. I think the new Exit song for Violet Beauregarde is a little bit... especially when I am comparing it to Juicy, which is a song that was so upbeat and perfectly stylized if the lyrics were a bit too dark. I mean, even the title of the song, Got What You Want, feels more like a song for Veruca Salt than a song for Violet Beauregarde. I think how they've reimagined Must Be Believed to Be Seen is rough. I don't think the newer song they add to the intro of the song blends that well with It Must Be Believed to Be Seen. And it weakens what was originally such a great and strong end of Act 1 song. And I don't understand why Candyman exists in this version of the show, especially within the context that it's placed in this version being sung by the mother. I will say though, taking away some of the material that didn't really work about the West End version does make this show's score feel a lot stronger overall. Altogether, it's a fun score that really works. I'm just quite fussy. Let's talk about this cast. Starting with Charlie. Now, this UK tour has cast Charlie with 2 girls and 2 boys. These 4 young actors alternate the role through the different performances. At the performance that I saw, which was press night, pretty much a month ago, God, I've taken my time with this, I saw Amelia Minto, and I must say, what a fantastic young actor she was. Being such a strong lead, especially at a young age, is very impressive. She had everything you want in a perfect Charlie. She was sweet, she was kind, she was imaginative. Her vocal performance being incredibly impressive as well. Such a fantastic young actress, I must say. Gavin Snook is our Wonka, and for the most part, he's good. But I feel like he focuses a little bit too much on the angrier side of Wonka, or the more grumpy side of Wonka, rather than giving a nice balance to the weirdness and the whimsicality that comes with the role. I didn't really feel like I gravitated enough to him as a figure of mystery and intrigue. That's the part of Wonka that I most enjoy. The kind of childlike nature about him. And I just feel like Snook didn't really bring enough of that with the performance. I think his vocals are great, he performs the songs really well. I just feel like he's missing that one little element that I think, to me, is the most important part of Wonka. Michael de Cruz is such a warm Grandpa Joe. I think the dynamic between him and Amelia Minto as Charlie was really fun to watch. They really feel like the closest members in a family. I really want to mention Lenoni Spilsbury, who plays Charlie's mother. I really love the addition of the sign language for the mother. It feels really inclusive, and I love how it adds to the context of the show. I think it's lovely, I think it's inclusive, and I think it would kind of add to the challenges of the Bucket family. Especially as, without a father in this production, the mother is constantly working. Now, I have my problems with casting adults as children. I feel like in this version, where this is a show that's going on UK tour, that's a lot harder to cast a full wide range of children. I understand going with this rather than going with the original West End version of making them all kids. And I feel like you still have the regular negatives of them feeling so in contrast to Charlie and looking so much older, and it's quite hard to suspend your disbelief when not all of them are played by adults. I feel like it would be easier if they all look the same. But I feel like this is a strong cast, if a little bit reserved. I feel like they could lean into the stereotype a little bit more. They could go really over the top, because I didn't really feel like I hated them enough. They're meant to be like the most repulsive characters, and yet I actually found myself attached to most of them. And just as a general note, I really want to mention the trans casting here. I really do appreciate the fact that we have both a trans Mike TV and a trans Augustus Gloop. I thought that was fantastic, and I'm really glad to see a show be unafraid to cast trans people in roles that aren't designed for trans people. And it's great. Keep on giving us trans casting, because we will come and we will perform and we will be fantastic. Come on now. We deserve to see this trans excellence on stage, and I'm so glad this production gave us that. And let's talk briefly about the Robot Oompa Loompas. I like this change. This is a change that I feel like really works with the production. I feel like it makes sense when you think about it. It's an interesting change, and I feel like it gets you around the, elephant in the room when it comes to the Oompa Loompas as characters. I think the ensemble do a great job at bringing these to life. I think where this production does sadly lack a little bit is in the design. There are some great ideas here, as I just mentioned about the Robot Oompa Loompas. I feel like these costumes look great. I feel like the costumes overall are quite strong, actually. I feel like Wonka's outfit is a nice switch up. It has the elements that you'd expect to see, but with a nice added touch like the W spiked design around the hat. I also like the new designs for the kids' outfits. These are all quite fitting for their characters, especially the matching outfits that Violet Beauregarde and her mum have, and the lederhosen for Augustus Gloop, switching it from the typical red jumper that we've kind of come quite used to. The design more struggles when it comes to the set. Act 1 looks fantastic. I love the framework around the stage that goes around the proscenium. I love the junkyard set and how this opens up into the candy store. These kind of physical elements to the set are the strongest parts of it. The construction of Charlie's house. Then we go into the factory in Act 2, and everything just kind of becomes LED screens and projection. This show had two main struggles with this. One, it has the West End production to live up to, and it's impossible to do that. And two, it's got to tour this set. It's got to make sure that it can move this set from theatre to theatre to theatre. And with that, I think that's where it struggles. I think that's why this show didn't originally tour the West End version. Now, the design of these don't look terrible. They don't look awful, and I think there's some fun ideas within this projection. But I feel like when we go from Act 1 with the really well-designed set pieces, I feel like we're missing these in Act 2. Even just having a couple of different things, like a few lollipops and stuff come in for the the chocolate room, that's the name. Not the garden room. It should be called the garden room, but it's the chocolate room. That's the name. Just like a few little set pieces for the different areas in the show. I think the best designed place in the factory is the nut room, which is really fun with these kind of bird cages that the cast stand in, giving the space down the bottom. That's where it feels like it matches. But when it's focused so wholly on the projection, that's where it feels like it's at its weakest. I think on the whole, the direction's really strong, and it's very, very clear that there was definitely a vision behind this. This does feel like the next step when it comes from the original West End version. And it's nice to see it take these new ideas and try different things. And maybe not all of them hit. Maybe there's a few things that don't really work here and there. But overall, a lot of the big ideas, Robot Oompa Loompas, the different staging, a lot of these big ideas really do work. Overall, I think this production of Charlie is good. It's probably a 3-star show, and I feel like that is in part to some of its fatal flaws of the original West End version as well, when it comes to pacing and this, that and the other. But I think it's a good production, and its heart, it gives what I love about Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. It gives the imagination, it gives the focus on Charlie, it gives you a lot of different spectacle and a lot of the camp fun ideas that come from the original Roald Dahl tale. I think when it comes to staging and a lot of the big ideas, it is my favourite version. I love a lot of the things that it does. But I feel like it misses in a couple of its changes, a couple of the things from the original version that I miss. And it does feel held back by the fact that they have to think about touring this version of the show. However, I would recommend this show a lot more to Charlie fans than I would the original Broadway version. I think it captures a lot of what I love about Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Is it perfect? No. But I feel like there is enough here to latch onto and enjoy. But what do you think? Have you seen this version of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory? Were you impressed? Were you underwhelmed? Let me know all of your thoughts in the comments down below. I mean, I'm very mixed and my thoughts are very complicated on this show. And I've shared them in these 2 videos. And now I'm done. Maybe I'll find 50 other versions of Charlie and the Factory and maybe we can talk about it more. But for now, I'm done. If you did enjoy this video, please consider hitting like and subscribing. It really helps me out and helps out the channel. There's some links to some other videos on screen right now. But that's it for me today, and I'll hopefully see you next time. Bye.